Welcome back to the lounge for another round of Whiskey, Sticks, and Politics. I'm your host, Rashad Sullivan. And today, we got somebody who knows how to navigate the heat, both in the humidor and under the Gold Dome in Raleigh.
Absolutely.
He's a scientist by trade, an educator at heart, and a powerhouse for Durham in the North Carolina House. Whether he is dissecting a stalled state budget or building bridges across a hyper-polarized aisle, he does it with the precision of a master blender. He's here to talk about the maps being drawn, the votes being suppressed, and how we keep our cool when the world feels like it's catching on fire. Please welcome back to the lounge, Representative Zack Hawkins.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Glad to be in the lounge.
No, please.
Sure.
No, I appreciate it, sir. I'm trying to keep up with you.
Okay.
I was familiarized myself with you on your platform.
Yeah.
I know you have the Bow Ties and Bourbon event every year. Tell us a little bit about that to get started.
Well, I just blended two things that I love.
Right.
I spent a lot of time with my friends around the country hunting bourbon and becoming a bourbon connoisseur. And what you learn about it is that bourbon brings people together. And while people may see it just as a whiskey, as a beverage, or something that you consume, the people that you meet on the journey of learning about it, the stories that you come back to tell, and the ability to bring people together. Even in the General Assembly, I've been able to bring. We have an unofficial, bourbon caucus, just to bring people together because it's an opportunity to build bridges. And then the bow ties, I've been wearing bow ties since 2009, and so what I realized when I first got elected is that people were not doing annual events anymore. And I said, if I ever got elected, I wanted to do something that was uniquely me,
Right.
and that could bring people together, and something that could be a signature thing. And so it's been, I think this year is 7 years.
All right. So, hey, I wore my bow tie for the day. I tied it myself. So
Thank you. That's the only way to do it.
Well, hey, you brought up something here because, of course, thinking about the scientific method, you're a biologist being trained at Elizabeth City State University and also at North Carolina Central University.
Right.
Now, when you look at the current state of the General Assembly, do you see it as a functioning ecosystem, or are we looking at a failed experiment?
In many ways, the reason, I'll start with the last. The reason that it's a failed experiment is because we're in a space right now where one party has all the control. And government was never meant to operate that way, never. And so both in the House and the Senate, you have working supermajorities, which means that not only do they have the votes to pass any bill, but they also can override the governor's veto.
I think that's very important, what a lot of people leave out of the conversation when they're talking about politics. I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you have a situation, explain that for me again, where you have a supermajority in both the House and Senate, and how that can thwart the governor.
That's
when
right.
he puts things,
That's
or
exactly
when he
right.
enacts things.
So the governor may see a bill that says, we don't want, local sheriff offices or state government having to cooperate with ICE. He may say that's wrong. I don't like that. It's bad for North Carolina. They have the votes to override those. And so there was one day that we had 8 veto overrides on the docket. And they overrode all 8 of them. Now we did have, at the time, we had, one Democrat that joined them that helped make this a functioning supermajority. But the reason that it's wrong is because it doesn't allow for good ideas. Like, I may have a good idea that a constituent has come to me with in Durham that would make the entire state better, but just because you're a Democrat, right? Just because it's not their idea, they can decide not to move forward, or they can take something that's totally outlandish, like cutting our taxes down to 0, push that forward, and have the votes to make that law. And so it doesn't allow for the exchange of ideas. And the thing that I'm working for is 2 things. First is I find ideas and issues that I can work across the aisle on. So that's the signature for me. It's something I believe in. It's something I've done since my first term. The second really is seeing what we can do to actually change the dynamics of the General Assembly.
Of course.
Because if we're filing enough good bills that make enough sense to North Carolinians, enough North Carolinians are going to say, you know what? That's a good idea. Anybody should be able to do that, right? Anybody should be able to do that. And so, again, no one man should have all that power, right? No party should have all that power. And he said it. He did say it right. And so state government should not operate when one party has all the control. It is an idea because at the end of the day, people across the state, the 11 million people across North Carolina, only care about making sure that they can make money, that they can have jobs that feed their families, they can send their kids to public schools. And there's nothing partisan about that.
And it's interesting you bring up public schools. It takes me to my next question.
Yep.
Because as a former DPS teacher, you've seen the lab results of the state funding firsthand. What's the biggest lie Raleigh tells itself about our public schools?
That they're not working. That they're not working, and that teachers aren't working hard. You have, when I was teaching, you had teachers that would go in from 7 to 3 and then turn around and work from 5 to 10 just to make ends meet, right? That's not right.
Right.
My grandmother was a public school teacher. My mother-in-law, I taught. My sister was a teaching fellow. Like, I had teachers in my neighborhood. Like, I have known, thousands of teachers across the state and in Durham, and they work incredibly hard to make sure they're creating the future. So that's the first thing. I would say the second thing is that they're not working and they're not producing. Even under North Carolina being 43rd in 43rd in teacher pay and 50th in per pupil spending, we're still exceeding expectations in the classroom with our students.
All right.
Like right here in Durham, we still have awards being given for the work that's being done. We have kids who are going off and getting full ride scholarships to places around the country in North Carolina.
Beautiful.
And I would say the third thing is that somehow this school choice thing of taking public money and sending it to private schools, somehow they're trying to share with people or tell people that that's the best way. And really all it is robbing the 1.5 million kids that are in North Carolina schools. When if you want to keep what the saying is. The saying is keep the main thing the main thing.
Yes.
The main thing is 1.5 million kids that are, from Murphy to Manio in our public schools. And when businesses come, because I represent RTP,
right,
they come because they're looking for workforce, right? And I just had a business, AbbVie, that came to town. They make Skyrizi and Botox and a few other things.
Okay.
Average salary $100,000. You do not have to have a 4-year degree. They're coming because North Carolina still ranks high in workforce because of who we're sending out of our public schools. And so if we know that's the case, you got to feed the engine. And so when they say all those things together, it creates a bad taste in people's mouths about public schools.
Right.
And then it creates a little bit of flight. And so we have to do our job, and that's what I try to do, is make sure that we're uplifting teachers and we're talking about all the positive things that are happening in public schools.
Right, right. No, we appreciate you being on that fight, the front lines of that fight, because we know we had May 1st was the big teachers movement.
10,000 teachers.
Wow,
10,000 teachers.
wow. Talk a little bit about that. You were out there.
Yeah, it was, it was amazing. And what I said to people is, if you understand how much teachers love kids and love their students and love being in the classroom, if they're willing to take a day away from the classroom to go and have their voices heard, it should raise every alarm bell possible, right?
Right.
Because what they're saying is, not only are you're not paying me, they understand, and part of them understand they never went into public education to get rich, right? But what they're saying is you're cheating the potential that I see in the classroom every single day. Man, when I was teaching at Southern, no lie, there was this kid, Andre, who, he grew up in East Durham, and he was so smart that I stepped back and I said, you know what, I'm gonna let him get in front. He got up and was able to teach the cell cycle, DNA to RNA, RNA to protein. He teaches this to his classmates. They get it. He's answering questions that they ask. Now later on, he was, had a house arrest thing and, had a deal, but he is doing well now. I saw him not too long ago.
Excellent, excellent.
But we talk about, that's the potential that exists. And so you're talking about this one kid, but I had thousands of other kids and thousands of other kids across North Carolina
Right.
that are going off and achieving. And so when teachers see that we're cheating public education in the General Assembly,
Right.
they're saying, you know what? There's that one kid that's right on the line that if I had a little more time and a little more resource, I could take that kid to heights that you've never seen. And so I think that when you see teachers that are taking their time to do the work, to get out of the classroom and to raise their voice and protest, we should see that as the most important thing that we should be doing, is supporting them and making sure that we're meeting their demands.
Right, right. And and listen, I know when I was coming up, teachers were pulling money out of their own pockets back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Did it too.
And it sounds like that situation
Still
ain't got
happening.
any better at all.
Yeah.
So I know teachers are still pulling money out their pockets today to take care of students.
They are. And so when lots of teachers, and a few stats, North Carolina is still, I think we're number 1 and number 2 in board certified teachers.
Wow.
Which is the highest rank that you can get.
Beautiful.
So we still rank number 1 and number 2. We still have lots of teachers that get their master's degrees, but we don't pay for them. And then you are then 43rd in 43rd in teacher pay. North Carolina used to be middle of the pack.
Okay.
So over the course of about 20 years, we've dropped to about 43rd. And then when you don't have as much money, 50th in per pupil spending, that means I think it's like South Carolina is paying about almost $3,000 more per student
Right.
than North Carolina is. So that means you don't have as much resource in the classroom to provide. So when I was a science teacher, I was able to have them cut a frog, right? Dissect a frog.
I remember that.
Yep. And I had the
And the pig.
opportunity, and the pig, and I think we did a shark. But not when you have the opportunity to make that happen, it excites students. It really does. But when you don't have the ability to do that, when they start cutting those things back, that means you have to tell a student versus showing a student. And so it takes away the ability for them to have the strong public education that we said to them. And you never know what's going to turn in their head. And the student will say, you know what? I think I want to do this. Wow, this is amazing. Like, if you do it well, you know what? You should be a surgeon. Some students have never heard that. So you have to have the opportunities for them to see and feel education as well as hear it.
Right.
And so the reason that teachers come out of their pockets to get to the point is that when that goes down, teachers say, well, I still have to provide.
Yes.
I still want to make sure my kid can go on a field trip. I still want to make sure that kid that looks hungry has snacks.
Yes.
Right? And so teachers just mean everything, and they should be paid. One of the bills that I filed my first term is they should be in the top 10 of pay in the United States.
Wow.
North Carolina is the number ninth in U.S. population, and we will be number 7 by 2045, right? That's rarefied space. That's rarefied air. And so are we tired? The question is, are we tired of teachers getting board certified and getting master's degrees and going to teach in Virginia and South Carolina?
Well, wow, they're leaving.
Leaving us? Or do we want to value it and keep the companies coming and keep the product moving, which is our students?
Right.
And so teachers are always going to try and make ends meet for their kids, but it's just the state has to do its part.
Right.
And so teachers can't continue to do that kind of work. And again, that's why they came to Raleigh.
So when we're talking about the
mind
state,
if I
absolutely,
continue?
please,
Okay.
absolutely. Get you some more, sir.
Sure.
We're talking about the state, doing what they need to do for teachers, but we know, Linda McMahon, and how they have pretty much, destroyed the Department of Education.
Everything's show business, right?
Everything's show business. But if we take it out of show business, tell North Carolinians what these actions mean for them.
Yeah. And so what it means is when Linda McMahon and Donald Trump decided to dismantle, that means things like Pell eligibility, right? I mean, so all those things, fall under the Department of Education.
Okay.
So you probably went to school with a lot of folks who went to school because of Pell money. When they got their financial aid package, maybe it was about half, right? And so if they decide who is worthy of that, who should get that or how much that is, that directly impacts the type of student that can go to school. And namely, what that means is people who are coming from families who are middle class or not, right? And people who don't have someone who can come out of pocket or afford loans.
Right.
That's what Pell means. And once you want to make sure that people who are not coming from the high socioeconomics still have an opportunity to get an education.
Yes.
And it means something because for those students, and I mean me in particular, it means that you have the ability for social mobility.
Right.
And that's really, really important. The second thing that they sort of messed around with, but I think they had to backtrack on, is around the disabilities, IDEA.
Okay.
And so the ability, and I have 2 sons with autism, and so the ability for kids with autism or adults to have access to services and resources is something they were fumbling around with too. And it has real implications in the work that we do. And I would say that third is the loan program. And in deciding what they've really tried to do, and this is terrifying in so many ways, is the ability for them to determine what degrees matter, right?
Wow.
What degrees you can get loans for. Now, nobody likes student debt. I know all of us hate it, but it still allows someone to fill the gap when you get Pell, a little bit of money from home, and then a loan so that you can get through school, get a job, and then pay it off in 10 plus years. But to decide who gets it or who doesn't could stop so many people who have an interest in a particular field to not go to college.
Right.
Or have to find a personal loan, which is completely has much more interest, all those kinds of things.
Exactly.
And so they are really and truly trying to find ways to make sure that the everyday person that can use education as a ladder,
Yes.
they're trying to find ways for those folks not to get on board at all.
Trying to pull away the ladder, stack the deck, set the scene,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And that's actually occupying that headline right now, right?
That's
Because
right.
we know before North Carolina had got caught putting forth a map that was said to have surgical precision in regards to affecting the black vote, right? And we've seen redistricting go rampant after the Supreme Court decision here, okay? So help explain to, say, the layperson what that Supreme Court decision means and what we're seeing out of all of these southern states right now.
Yeah, well, the thing that you need to know is that a lot of it started in North Carolina. A lot of it. So well before any of those states went off to go gerrymander, that's what it's called, North Carolina started the trend. And so I've served on redistricting for 4 terms.
Okay.
So I have drawn maps. I have been on the stand to defend maps and to talk about what the Republicans have done to try and gerrymander people out of districts. And so it's something that's pretty near and dear to me. I'll go back to 2021. Floyd McKissick and I worked to make sure that that you could have your mail-in ballot received 3 days after, right?
Okay,
Which
good.
you saw in the 2022 election. That played out very well in North Carolina because we have a high military population and we have a high rural population.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Makes a difference.
Give them time to get the ballot sent in.
1,000%.
Especially when you got a postmaster that don't want to deliver the mail.
Exactly. And the thing about this is that, U.S. mail since COVID has been slow. And that was sort of the point of making sure that we made that accommodation because the mail was, there are great people who do the service, but it's just unpredictable when it comes in that, sort of 7 to 10 day window.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is making sure that you also didn't have to have 2 signatures when you did your mail-in ballot.
Okay.
And you have to have a witness to do that. But they were trying to say we need 2. Most people, especially if you're an old elderly person who lives alone, you don't have 2 people that can do that. And so we wanted to make sure that was in place. And then I'm trying to think, what was the third one? And then we made sure, I think in the term before, that you could use your student ID, your work ID, or your community college ID and tribal ID as a voting instrument. We wanted to make sure that you could have those as just in case there was an issue, that you could have those to use versus having to go get a driver's license. Everybody didn't have one. I give all that context to say that we were in a place, we set the tone for that. The state Supreme Court said that we needed to have more even districts.
Yes.
And so we ended up with 7-7. 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, right? Ran on those maps, had great people in office. North Carolina's about a 50-50 state.
Okay.
Everyone was able to vote, right? But based on those rules, and everything was great, right? This is the way that democracy is supposed to work. North Carolina is supposed to look like this.
Okay.
As soon as
The butt coming.
the butt is coming, the butt is coming. But as soon as we lost the Supreme Court, what they did is they went back and essentially reversed those laws here in North Carolina.
Wow.
And we ended up with a 10-3 map. No, 10-3-1 map.
So we were split.
We were split.
7-7. And now it was 10-3-1. That don't make any sense.
Well, it's because what they were doing ahead of time is they wanted to show that they could be more conservative, they could gerrymander the most, they could do all these things. And honestly, they did it. They really did. I mean, because I say one, but it was a 50-50 district that a Democrat won, so it was really 10-4. The reason that they said that they did 10-4 is because they couldn't figure out how to make 11-3. And those seats, if you're following along, they went from 7 Republicans to 10. The only reason that Hakeem Jeffries was not Speaker of the House was because the 3-vote majority that they hold currently in Congress. So the only way that Republicans in Congress have a Speaker of the House is because North Carolina went from 7-7 to 10-4. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
And so we were well ahead of the curve when it comes to extreme gerrymandering. And we thought we were able to fix it, but as soon as they were able to take, not only an electoral lead in the General Assembly, but we lost the Supreme Court in the state, they just took the opportunity to take it away. And so now that you see all this gerrymandering happening around the country, they're essentially doing just that. They're doing exactly what they can to make sure that they can give just enough Republicans so that they don't lose Congress. Because once they lose Congress in D.C., all the Project 2025 is dead.
Wow.
Right? Because you don't have a speaker that's going to take up any bills. Clearly, Hakeem Jeffries is not going to take up a Donald Trump bill. The Senate will likely still stay Republican, but by a slim majority. And so if you don't have one chamber operating in your favor, then your whole deal is dead. And so that's really what they're trying to do. They're trying to take as much as they can around the country. And this is before we get to the Supreme Court race, Supreme Court decision. They were trying to do that. Now you get to the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court decision says essentially that partisan gerrymandering is completely legal across the country. And so, and we all hear about the 92%. 90% of black women, 86% of black men essentially voted Democrat. So by disenfranchising Democrats, you're disenfranchising black folks. And as somebody who's been on redistricting for all that time, I could tell you, if we're sitting in Mr. Holt's house today, I could draw him in a new district away from his neighbor, who literally lives across the street from him. That's how, when you say surgical precision, I'm bringing it all back home. That's what surgical precision means. So that means I know if I'm in a particular area, I know where all the black folks live.
Yeah, you do.
Like, I know the common areas of interest. We know the size of town.
They use red lines.
That's right.
They use red lines so you wouldn't forget.
Hey, that's right. That's exactly right. So it's coming back home, and they're using that information, that same kind of thought patterns about where people live to disenfranchise them. And so long story short, by being able to draw those lines and break black power up, black political power up, by putting places like Memphis, a place that clearly we know that Memphis is majority black. But if you break it up and put part of the district in urban and part of it in a large rural area, you're going to drown out the power of black folks' ability to elect somebody of their choice. So what we're looking at with that Supreme Court decision is probably about, some estimates say about 30% of the Congressional Black Caucus will be wiped out.
But Representative Hawkins, when I'm out here and I'm talking to people, or I'm in the barbershop, I'm hearing people come up in regular conversation, I keep hearing, all of that stuff, I don't vote, I'm not involved, it's two wings on the same bird, all of this gerrymandering, but people still don't think their vote matters. Help dispel that a little bit for me here, sir.
So the easiest way to start that conversation is to say, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu.
Oh, man.
And for people have to understand that. That means there are people sitting at tables who are carving you up and placing you in buckets so that they can use you or dilute you for their own power, right? And so that means, anything you see coming out of the White House, right? Whether it's going to war and the president of the United States making $3 billion in a year, it means his cronies being able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
It means when you see the gas prices, when you're now paying $100 to put in, it's $4.29 here in Durham. When you're paying $100 at the pump, his boys are making billions. He's taking care of his folks so that they can make money to turn around and circle and give back to him. Like, that's what it means. When the cost of groceries goes up, somebody, his friends at Walmart, his friends at Target, his friends that make the 5 and dime things, like all his folks are making billions. And so if he can keep power, if he can keep control, then not only is the money continue to come to him, but it's a tool, a necessity to get what they want, right? They gerrymander you in so many ways. Yes, there are a lot of racist folks, but a lot of it is about keeping power and keeping money coming to the right folks that are not us. And so I think that when you say that your vote doesn't matter, as they say, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't mess with it, right? You would not have to go through so much just to cast a ballot. And you have so many people who have a vested interest in making sure that prison systems still work.
Exactly.
Right? And that ICE facilities still work. Not only is it money, but it's the ability to continue, as they have since Reconstruction, to continue to break up the Black household and continue to break down the Black community and to stop the progress that we made since 1877 and again started in 1965. And so I think that when you're talking to people, it's like you have to say that at the end of the day, it can get so much worse. It can get so much worse. When we saw what happened in Minnesota and we saw what happened in other areas,
Exactly.
we already know what over-policing looks like. We already know what disenfranchisement looks like. It's on its way back. Everything that you've heard about in the history books, they are working to use as a tool to keep power. And I don't, my grandfather used to say, sometimes it's got to run down people's legs. You got to run down your leg. And I don't want it to have to run down our legs. I really don't. Because they have shown through the Heritage Foundation, which put together the Project 2025.
Yes.
They've shown through his actions of the first year and a half of the Trump administration that they mean business. And sometimes you don't hear the footsteps until they're too close. And then you don't know if it's gonna be you that's next that's gonna lose their job. 300,000 Black women have lost jobs since the Trump administration took over in January 2025. Like, does that make sense? It is not only is it economic, those cuts in research and funding and government jobs, they knew exactly
who was gonna get hurt.
Who was gonna get hurt. Like, when I tell you, it's not only surgical precision in the vote, it is surgical precision with everything that they do. The guy who is the head of the Heritage Foundation did dissertation work in Black studies.
That did come up.
And not only Black studies, but like Black power, Black political power. So they are very vested in understanding what makes us tick, but most importantly, what makes us resilient, and seeing what they can do to diminish our ability to grow. Think about this, two things. In 1877, after 1865, after the Reconstruction took place, you had almost within a decade, hundreds of Black people holding political office, sitting in Congress and debating, people who had just either been slaves or the kids of slaves. Then, when 1965 happens, we actually get the vote.
Right.
Same thing happens. Within what is it, a 30 almost year time frame from all this work, you have a black president of the United States. Like, we are dynamic. We have Fortune 500 companies that have been led by, since 1965, black folks, and thousands of others who have taken over industries across the country and or built things from the ground up. They understand the power. They understand your power,
right?
But you have to understand your own.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense.
And so when we talk D9, when we talk HBCU, when we talk all these other things, it really is time for us to realize that it's at our footsteps. Like the call is damn near coming from inside the house. I mean, because they are just that precise in thinking about the ways that they can dismantle our power, so that not only, again, some of it's the racism, but some of it is they understand that for us to grow means they think it's for them to diminish. That's not the case, but it's just the way that some of those folks think. They think it's a zero-sum game. They think it's me versus you in a zero-sum game, and it's just not. Anytime black folks in America do well, everybody does well, right? But you have people who don't think that. They think that every time we progress, they believe that something is being taken away from them. And so when you're dealing with folks who believe that and are acting on that clearly through what's happening in both state and federal politics, we have to be, as the former vice president said, we got to be ruthless too.
We do.
We do.
We definitely do.
We got to be relentless and we got to be ruthless.
No, I 100% agree with you there. It seems as if, though, we're thinking about it moving forward, right, and how we can maybe operate in this new landscape that we're dealing with. It seems like in a few places, and I believe one of the South Carolina lawmakers said, hey, some of this redistricting that we're doing, we may be counting some eggs before they hatch.
She did.
And they're making some seats that were not competitive.
That's exactly right.
Competitive.
That's right.
With the way that I guess this would be cracking us now.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Speak to that dynamic. And is there opportunity in North Carolina to maybe apply some pressure on some seats that maybe used to be safe for the Republicans that may be up for grabs? Yeah.
So he made a very astute sort of observation there, because essentially what they're saying is they're going to take Clyburn's seat.
They want to draw out the only representative in South Carolina.
South Carolina. And so by taking his, you're right, they do diminish his, they get another seat. But just like when I was talking about I could draw this away, that means that now you've taken a district that didn't have 25% African-American, right?
Right.
Or minority participation, and you up that. And so the other thing that they're not discounting, and I think the reason that his line was so astute, is that means you also have probably introduced more independents into that district as well. And so in some of those areas, they damn near have to be perfect to win a seat. And with independents breaking 2/3 for Democrats, and clearly with 92 and 86% of black folks voting for Democrats, it does put them in jeopardy. I would say based on the seats that we have now, we have Don Davis, who was out east. They tried to draw his a little like 50-50.
Okay.
But I still think he can. But there is another seat down in the third, and Raymond Smith, who's a fraternity brother of ours, is running in that seat. That's the seat where they took Greenville and put it into that district. Where they took it away from Don Davis, they put Greenville into that district. Greenville has a lot of black Democrats, has a lot of independents, has a lot of college students.
Has a college right there.
Right, a college right there. And so now he got courted by the DCCC, which is the campaign arm of the Democratic Party for congressional candidates.
Okay.
And they said, hey, with that switch, we now believe that with that dynamic, we can win that seat. And so that's one right off the jump. The other thing that they did is in Asheville.
Okay.
Chuck Edwards, who used to serve with me in the General Assembly, took over a seat from Madison Cawthorn. Y'all might remember the guy in the wheelchair who was doing all the crazy stuff and was a Trump guy.
We can't take him to parties no more because he
Cannot take him to party.
He don't know how to keep his mouth closed.
That's right. And
For the record, North Carolina, we don't kiss and tell in North Carolina. I don't know what the good representative was doing, but
no. Well, the thing about it is, he also like once he has a few of these, he's a different person. He's a different guy. apparently. And the thing they did there when they redistricted as well. Not only did Chuck Edwards become unpopular because he said he was going to be more for the district, but he ended just being a rubber stamp for Trump. He also just got hit with sexual assault charges, which are credible. And you have his name is Jamie Ager. Not only you do have an unpopular candidate, you now have a district that you thought was going to be reliably Republican.
Right.
And so we have 2 instances right here in North Carolina that because of the drawing, they have made 2 districts more competitive. And so that's what I'm hoping that we see across the country is that we don't let any seat go uncontested.
That's what I'm talking about.
No seat go uncontested. And if through voter education, I'm going to use that term, with some of our established, Black church, Divine Nine, HBCU, all these organizations. If we can educate people about why it's important, I think we have a real ability to make sure that both of those seats flip and that we keep Don Davis. And so if we do that, that brings down the tenor and that takes away 2 more seats from North Carolina that are going to the Republican majority. And then I think with that same level of turnout, we can create a statewide atmosphere where we keep Anita Earls on the bench, which is critical. And then we elect Roy Cooper for U.S. Senate.
Yes. Now, you brought up Anita Earls, Roy Cooper, very big races that the Democrats definitely need wins for here in these midterms.
Right.
And you've been an organizer since the Obama era.
Yeah.
Right? Drop a little bit of the blueprint that we got in place for these midterms coming in the fall.
Well, the thing about it is, Roy Cooper is a rock star.
Yes.
Let me start with that.
Roy can't lose Cooper.
Roy can't lose Cooper, man.
That's what they call him.
Yeah, 11 times statewide, and he's never lost.
Never lost.
And even with Trump on the ballot, Trump not on the ballot, and I checked one year, and he was running, no matter the county, 3 to 5% ahead of everybody.
Wow.
And so he's just, people trust him,
Yes.
And so he's committed to making sure that he's taking his coattails and bringing everybody else along.
That's good.
And what I understand is that we're going to compete everywhere. So that means if you live in Anson County, if you live in Bertie County, if you live in Asheville, if you live in a conservative county, we're going to make sure that somebody is there talking to voters. Because again, right now, I think that Trump's numbers are in the 30s. His approval rating is in the 30s. The General Assembly in the Republican majority is pretty unpopular. You're paying $4.29 for gas, which easily is going to hit $6 for regular.
Wow.
And diesel is going to hit $8 by the end of the summer.
No way. $6? Oh.
It's $4.29 right now.
It's getting there.
And so this is what, May? And so by the time we get to the end of the summer, we get late, and this Iran war continues. Not only are people pissed about that, they're ticked because there's a lot of diesel trucks that are going to be paying $7 a gallon. You have a lot of independents who are seeing what's happening in the Trump administration is going to be, they're really upset about that. We're the only state in the country that has not passed a new state budget.
Wow. That brings me to my next question, because I heard we had concepts of a budget.
We got concepts of
a budget in North Carolina.
They said framework. That's the new twist.
So tell me about this framework concept.
Well, the thing about it is it's really nothing new. It's really nothing new. We all knew that from the House, because the House did pass a budget that said we were going to take teachers and move them to top in the Southeast.
Okay.
Right? Now that's going to be a little harder now because South Carolina just upped their teacher pay. So we're going to have to go up again. But they said that the House said that we were going to do that. The House said, which we all agreed on, is that we want to pause these tax cuts. And tax cuts sound good on paper until you realize that your state by the end of the decade will be in a $5 billion recurring deficit. And what that means is that means it's the ability for people to meet the ongoing needs of the state. That means you're cutting teachers. That means you're cutting state employees or not adding on to state employees. That means your universities can't hire. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That means projects that we're looking at that are not like self-funded, roads and bridges, things are gonna stall, raises are gonna stop because they want to give, they want to give companies essentially no taxes to pay in the state of North Carolina. Now, the context I'm gonna give you to that is, I represent RTP, pound for pound, the economic engine of the state of North Carolina.
None of the business is the RTP.
None of them have asked for a tax cut. None of them. I'll take it. That's like somebody giving me $10 on the street. I'll take it, right? Does that mean like someone giving my kid candy? I'll take it. I didn't ask for it.
Right.
But it doesn't do what they need. What we need is good public schools. We need good workforce. We need to make sure the state is moving forward. And so I think they're in a world of trouble, to be completely honest.
Right.
I do. But it does still take the work of everyday people being engaged and involved. And so I think that our ability, to bring it back to your question, our ability to compete everywhere will talk to that person who's a Republican, who's also a teacher.
Right.
And say, you know what? You haven't received a raise in 2 years. We are last in the state. We're last in the country to have a state budget.
Right.
You're the biggest employer in your county. So teachers not getting what they need is huge. You're a kid, or you're a family who's taking care of someone with disabilities. And we're messing around with Medicaid funding and not reaching, allowing you to meet your needs or having the opportunity for a teacher's aide in a classroom, right? Like all the things. When those things start to hit people, plus gas prices, plus this, plus that, plus Trump approval rating, and Congress in shambles, I think it gives us our ability to make up margins across the state and win. And so the way that we're gonna do that is, again, not only we're gonna compete, but we're gonna hire the staff through the Democratic Party, people like me who are in places like Durham. We're gonna travel around the state and stunt for other candidates. We're gonna raise money for them. And so that's why I tell people, if you have a network anywhere in North Carolina, we will go and get it, because we want to activate those people to understand that, especially if you're black, black or minority, that this is the time to help right the ship or at least slow down the pain.
Yes.
It really is, because if we can make strides this cycle with 2028, more people come out in presidential elections.
They do, for sure.
And so that's really the strategy, is to make sure that that we talk about kitchen table things, right?
Yes.
Like making things cost less.
Yes.
And if we can do that and then compete in every single county to make sure that every voter is talked to and they hear from us, like that's what people want. They don't want to feel like, because I don't live in an urban area, you don't talk to me. They want to make sure that no matter who I am, my concerns matter, and me being able to feed my family and ensure that my child does better than me, they want to make those kinds of things a possibility for themselves.
If I could push back on that just a little bit, Representative Hawkins, and the only reason
let me take before you do.
Oh yeah, please take a sip, because if I'm recalling the game tape, Madam Vice President talked about kitchen table issues.
She did.
She talked about kitchen table issues.
She did.
She was going to give you $25,000 to buy a house.
She did.
Right? She was coming up with
for a second. Yeah.
She was talking about programs to help black men get into cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
that was a policy she was putting together for that.
That's right.
She was talking about kitchen table issues. So that's my pushback. Is it really kitchen table, or is it something else, Representative, that we're dealing with?
Well, the thing about it is I think you were dealing with two things then, three actually. I think first, Biden was a little less popular than we had anticipated. And
speak on that.
Yeah, and the thing is that it was because, and I will blame mainstream media for that, because they are 3 years apart, but they acted like Biden was falling apart. They really did. And so the media created this narrative that got played over and over again. I'm not saying that he was not, he didn't need to move on, but if you compare the two, they're very, very similar. The second thing is Biden did not with that infrastructure reduction, Inflation Reduction Act, they put billions of dollars into roads and bridges, into broadband access, into jobs across America.
They didn't tell nobody.
They didn't tell nobody. That's exactly right. They did not sell it as much as they should. And so when people don't have something that's tangible, and I'm hurting, and this guy has created a narrative that he was done wrong, and he needs to come back to fix it, it makes a compelling case that, you know what, give him another shot. Maybe he can do it the right way. It was not the right thing, clearly, but it was a narrative that won people over. The second and third thing that you're dealing with is sexism and racism. There are so many people. We let two incredibly qualified women, in Hillary Clinton and Madam Vice President, slip through our fingers.
We did.
The most qualified people between the two of them have ever run for office. And we let them slip through our fingers. And everything she said was true. She said he was gonna start a war. She said he was gonna benefit his family, that he was gonna cozy up to the Saudis. She said she gave the blueprint for who he was. But she did talk about it. And so I think that, again, it goes back to what I said. Sometimes what my grandfather said, it's gotta run down your leg.
Gotta run down their leg.
So now that the proof is actually in the pudding, and people are having to eat a little crow, and people are seeing the impacts of his policy on their actual life, on their everyday lives, and it's at a point where it's undisputed. You can draw a line from the Iran war to your gas prices.
Exactly.
Right? You can draw a line between some of the things he's doing and how much you're paying, but companies are still making billions of profits while wages continue to stay stagnant. You can't dispute it. And so I think that that's the scenario that she honestly should have been in, but it wasn't quite clear to the American people at that point.
And that's what I want to do, if we could take a moment to do that, to explain to somebody sitting in Durham that, hey, this war over 6,000 miles away, why does my representative even care to talk about that right now?
Because, and this is a very North Carolina thing. So you have San Diego and you have the 82nd Airborne in Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Right.
Within 24 to 48 hours, they get anywhere in the world. They are the first call. And so North Carolina blood is shed first. North Carolina bodies are on the line first. And so when you think about that, it also decimates the economy of parts of North Carolina. So when they deploy, it's a ghost town down there, right? The other thing is that we should not be sending young men and women into things that we are not directly. It does not directly involve interests of the American people. One of the things that I thought also, going back to your previous question, that Donald Trump also did a good job of is America first. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene believed that. Even she believed that shit, right?
At one point, right?
At one point. She doesn't believe it anymore, but at one point, even she was sold, but a lot of people who were, thinking like, you know what, yeah, we don't. So he reneged on all those things. And so when you say that, that makes sense. Yes, we should be putting money into, not spending money on foreign wars and doing those things. And so when you renege on those things, then I think people take a step back and they start to think about well, gosh, it would have been nice to have a president who actually did put us first. And so I think honestly, it's up to us to make that promise a reality, to push and make sure that there's legislators in Congress and in the state legislature that can put North Carolina and America first. And that's what people in Durham need to be thinking about, is who is representing me that is gonna make sure at the end of the day that they're not trying to make profit from their votes, right? Who is somebody that's gonna put me first and make sure that they're also out here listening to my concerns? Who is somebody that, based on the policy that they push forward, is gonna ensure that people like me get a job, that there are training programs for me to go get access to these jobs so that my kid doesn't have to continue to stay in my home for an extended amount of time so that they can grow on their own. The thing that I knew coming out of high school is that I was gonna do better than my parents. Does that make sense?
That's what our parents wanted to do.
That's what they wanted for us.
Exactly.
They invested in us, but guess what? I can't guarantee that The American people right now, if you're an adult sending your kid into the world, you cannot think about it. That is something that people in Durham need to think about. Is there somebody who's going to make sure that and for many of us who are in the sandwich generation, we're not only taking care of kids, we're taking care of our parents.
Yes.
Are we going to ensure that things like Medicare and Medicaid are expansive enough to allow for us to breathe, so that we're not paying costs that extend past our budgets, but then also making sure that we allow people to retire and live with dignity to the end of their time. Like that's the kind of, everybody is feeling that kind of stuff. I talk about disability, same thing. Like there should be money so that those people can go off and live dignified lives and have the ability. But again, lastly, I would say healthcare. The majority of the debt that people have in America is around healthcare.
Your largest expense in retirement is healthcare.
But it's not only, no. It's also the largest expense, but it is where the most debt resides. People go to the doctor and, right, how'd I get a $10,000 bill for X, for something that was just not that serious, right? Or like you perceive to not be that serious. I'm exaggerating, but it happens all the time. People are in extreme medical debt. And so when you think about, especially where we live, City of Medicine, in this area that is like rich in that area, if you're someone in Durham, you have to think about like, why are we not providing enough for me to have coverage? Why are we not providing enough for me to not have to go into debt and take out loans or downsize my house or like have the creditors calling me because of medical debt? Like that is serious. And so when you start talking about wages, when you start talking about education, when you start talking about healthcare, like if you're somebody who lives here, you should be doing so much better than the average person, but it says a lot that so many find themselves not. And so because Durham is a land of milk and honey, like we got Duke here, we have RTP, we have two of the greatest universities, especially the public HBCU here.
Yes.
Right? And so you have to know that somebody's decisions are not allowing us to maximize our God-given potential.
Right.
And so if you're in Durham with a place that has so much, that means so many more people should be able to access greatness and be able to, again, maximize their potential, but they're not. And so that's what I would say to people is think about the things that are holding you back from going to get the things in life and provide what is, I think, should be afforded and made necessary to you. If you can't do those things, then you need to make sure that there are people in place statewide, federally, locally, et cetera, that will allow you to do that.
Right. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I came across in doing some research on a few things that you've been vocal about, looking forward, say 2030, you touched on AI and tech. Now, we don't get the 2026 elections right. Does North Carolina lose the edge on this spot as being a tech hub by 2030?
So I would say no. Yes and no. Okay. The yes is if we keep the tax cuts, which the House and the governor are completely against. But if there was a scenario where we kept them, then if we're in a recurring deficit, that means we're not able to provide the sound basic public education for kids. We're not able to hire teachers, overcrowded classrooms, lack of money for, Durham Tech, like, those kinds of things, right? Cuts in public health, in health and human services, like those kinds of things. People who can provide care, you won't have as many, right? The shortages that we have a shortage of nursing, teachers, specialists around North Carolina. You're not filling any of those if you don't. And so that's how we could hurt ourselves if we allow those tax cuts to continue. Then you're going to see massive growth, because I think it's like I think what the governor said, it was North Carolina in the last quarter had the most people move to a state. We were the state of immigration. Oh, wow. From people around America, they moved to North Carolina, and Charlotte was number one on our list, followed by the Triangle.
Oh, wow.
And so...
It says a lot.
Says a lot. And so for what people perceive as opportunity, so we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we look at declining revenue, which doesn't allow basic needs to be met while we're also growing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
And so the reason I say no is because of the business climate here. North Carolina, 3 out of the last 4 years, has #1 place to do business, right? So the companies are going to continue to come because thank God we have 10 HBCUs in the state of North Carolina, right? Public, 5 private, and an amazing UNC system that will continue to pump out enough talent to keep them coming, right? And not to mention people are moving to the state. So we're going to continue to get companies coming because of our business climate and because of the workforce that we have. But at some point, those things are like, they're going to collide. Like they're going to create issue with each other. You can't have both. And so the hope is that with this budget, which there have been there's been some movement on the budget. Just
framework, concept of
the budget. Getting back to that. So the concept of the budget says that we are going to pay teachers top in the Southeast. We're going to give an 8% raise, 4% each year to like veteran teachers, a 3% raise to state employees, which is not enough. And then places like SBI and corrections, we're going to give them like 17 to 20% raises because they do a lot of hard work and there are shortages in those areas, right? They have a very hard time recruiting. So in that, we're also going to give $200 million to the Children's Hospital, which will be the only freestanding children's hospital between, I think, DC and Atlanta. And then as a part of that, what we understand is because the Senate was able to get some of the things that it wanted, they're going to stop or pause the tax cuts. And so if we do that, then we're on the trajectory together of growth and providing opportunity to meet the need. And so that's kind of the framework, but there's a lot of stuff in there. And so I've served on approps and education approps my entire term. And so I eat and sleep the budget. And so the opportunity to make sure that we have enough for HBCUs and other areas is important.
Well, I could sit here with you all day.
Oh, man.
Right?
I would love to.
I've been having a good time asking you some questions.
All right.
If I was looking back and said, hey, Representative Hawkins, 10 years from now, we look back on what you've done, what do you feel like would be your most, proudest moment?
Proudest moment.
For you legislative-wise?
Yeah. First is when I talked about being able to provide those IDs, that was one of my bills. And so at that time, it provided a million people access to the ballot or access to a voting instrument that didn't have it before.
Beautiful.
And so that would be the first thing. I would say the second thing is I co-chair the HBCU caucus in the legislature. And so it brings HBCU leaders together with bipartisan leaders. And we have seen sessions where there's been exponential growth. And so we're hoping that North Carolina Central will be included in some of that with our new chancellor this go round. And then we've been able to really fight for, developmental disabilities. Lastly is workforce development.
Beautiful.
And so we've been able, and I hope that this budget will provide an opportunity to create hubs across the state where we have all kinds of leaders coming together so that companies, when they come to town, they'll be able to tap into one space, talk about what they want, and have a network of nonprofits, the community college system, and the school system, so that we can ensure that there's true pipelines for talent going into companies, right? So it has to be bi-directional. They have to tell us what they want, and then we have to produce it. The kids need what? Hard skills and soft skills. And so there has to be a community approach so that no matter who you are, we can put you into the right pipeline so that you can go off and take advantage of some of the opportunities.
Beautiful. We definitely appreciate that hard work.
Thank you. This is great.
I want to finish up with one tough question. This is probably going to be the toughest question I pull out. And I actually hit the sheriff with this one.
Oh, did you?
As well.
He's got a gun, though. So
he handled it pretty well, and your answer may be as controversial, but being that you're from Durham, we know that, Mo Nuts is out there.
Oh, man.
But if you got the choice between going to Mo Nuts And you got Krispy Kreme with the hot sign on?
Krispy Kreme with a hot sign all day. Oh, I don't. Funny enough, it has attributed to a few of my pounds because anytime that hot sign is on, no matter where I am, I stop.
Well, hey, Durham, hey, you heard it here. The hot sign on, you know where we're going. We got a man right here. He's been a scientist, he's been an educator, and now he represents us in Durham. Representative Zack Hawkins, thank you so much for coming out here on Whiskey 6 in Politics.
Oh, thank
we
you.
appreciate you. We want to look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely.
But please tell the audience how they can follow you and find you and support anything that you got going on.
Yep. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, TikTok at Zack Hawkins NC, and then ZackHawkinsNC.com. And I would love for you to come to Bourbon and Bow Ties, which is going to be on September 18th. But please, at my legislative email, zach.hawkins@ncleg.gov. I would love to hear your concerns and make sure that I'm listening to you and putting forth the legislation that will help us all build a better North Carolina.
A better North Carolina. Thank you so much, Whiskey 6 in Politics audience. God bless you. Good night.
That was fun. That was fun.
Whiskey, Sticks, and Politics with Rashad Sullivan.